Check, check, check. Audio check. All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How is everybody doing this evening? This is Oliver, and I am in the People's Republic of Portland, Oregon, or Multnomah County, depending on your perspective. But I just wanted to kind of ramble on some current events. Nothing, in particular, but the lighting sure is strange. That is very, very odd. Let's hang on a second here. Let's see. Whoa. It is just kind of strange. I'm just going to have to live with it. Yeah, the other thing is, I noticed on that last video that you couldn't hear the beat. Can you hear that? Philippe Gordon, more than grateful, 9 months ago. Felipe Gordon in Shall Not Fade. But wonderful saxophone. What a great jam. But that didn't come through last time. So I was kind of like, wow, I wonder what that's all about. But I hope everybody's doing good. We had some very pleasant weather today here in Portland, but I saw the rest of the country just got hammered, and all my thoughts and prayers. And it's um, how stressful. I mean, Texas had grapefruit size ice balls. I saw one video where cattle were getting pelted with these grapefruit size ice balls in Texas. My God. Mm, cran raspberry. That's a new one that I just picked up. But, you know, um, April 26, 2023, it's at 9:40 p.m. The moon is trucking along at 11:30 p.m. West Coast time. It clicks into Leo. So with that, Leo is the jungle, ruler of the jungle. And Leo it's an interesting dynamic. So that's the moon is getting ready to click in here in a couple of hours. So it's going to be in Leo for a bit, and then it clicks into Virgo. And I didn't really look at any interplanetary conflicts, not until next weekend. And like I mentioned with the Scorpio full moon Scorpio weekend, Cinco de Mayo. So got another week. We got some time here. We got another week, then some. So, but that's like I mentioned is in the last one, the last live. It's not good, and it's going to be real bad. And one of the interesting things that came up with on the current events is there was a whistleblower that testified in front of Congress, and she was saying that there was 85,000 missing children. And if you remember, this was a huge, totally trigger issue for Donald Trump administration in 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019. It was huge. I mean, Senator Merkley from Oregon flew down there and was demanding to be let into buildings and have access to teen boys. It's like, Merkley, what are you doing? You want to see the children, the teen boys in the warehouse? It's like, what are you doing? But this was the staged ops. And if you remember Rep AOC from New York, she was down there. Oh God, she's got her fingers on the cyclone fence. She's, oh my God, where are they now? Where are they now? The border's open. massive narcotics, massive fentanyl, massive human trafficking. Hundreds of thousands of children are they've disappeared 85,000. So that's not counting the hundreds of thousands of children that have come unoccupied, unaccompanied, and or brought in by strangers and being abused, and they're flying them around, shuffling them around. This is the Biden admin. 85,000 is what this whistleblower. But the one thing she said that really resonated is she said the word Maya dialect from Guatemala. And we were just talking about Mesoamerican culture a week ago when we did the live stream, and it sent off bells and whistles. It's those kind of synchronicities. For one, those spiritual synchronicities where you're thinking about something or you say something, and then it manifests. It comes up in the news, or somebody comes to you and is talking about this item that you've been thinking about or you were speaking about. But the Maya dialect, so the significant thing about these Guatemalan Maya children, these are descendants of these Mesoamerican culture that we've been talking about. They don't speak Spanish. So where's the interpreters? Nobody has any idea. Nobody can understand them, and they can't speak and say, help me. It's like, what are they supposed to do? They're supposed to blink twice if you're being trafficked by strangers that are doing horrible things to you? They can't be heard. There's this different, ancient Mayan dialect, the tongue, the language, and they're targeted. It's almost like I feel like I could hear some ancient spiritual beings of the Mesoamerican culture and the Mayan, and man, I've done deep dives. I've done clay caricatures of some of their hieroglyphs and deities. This one guy has got these big, I call them pineapple rings. He has these huge circular, like huge pineapple ring sunglasses, and this really, really cool hat. I want that hat. But it right? This is 16th century. This is 1500s, right? And so I can't remember his name, but I did a clay piece on him, so I've studied it. I was deep diving into it artistically, painting and what people would call cultural appropriation. I look at it as just studies. And I actually have one of those Mayan pieces is over at the Portland Mercado Market. They've for sale. I told them that, whatever you wanted, I'll split it with you. And so I haven't been over there for in that store in there, but anyway, so it's over there, and I've done a lot of different work with them, a lot of them with the paper collage and stuff. And so I kind of feel like I have this, this cosmic conscience, this cosmic, whatever you want to call it, connection on some level to my Mesoamerican friends, these ancestors of some kind, that going back far enough, we've got DNA through Brazil, we've got from Africa, and up in through that channel there, and then the Native American Blackfoot, and everyone always says Cherokee, and then everyone jokes and mocks and everyone's Cherokee. But I think there might be some of it, but it wasn't very much. It was actually these other two that I'd have to look at that. It was kind of interesting. But then, we're a mutt. We got all these different Norwegian, Irish, we're all mixes really. But it's amazing if people would get those tests and you find out that you've all these amazing things. The family will say you are these different connections, heritage, and it turns out through the DNA, the DNA actually, your blood actually says something different. So, but I'm going to say prayers and meditate on those little Mayan children, because the modern Mayan children were specifically mentioned to this whistleblower. Um, and that clip was on Twitter. Otherwise, I would have dropped it in the show notes. I'll see if I can find that and drop it in there. But it's on Twitter. It was the whistleblower today that was testifying and on 85,000 missing children. I mean, missing. So the Biden, I mean, just incompetence, lack of funding, lack of priority, or intentional. And the whistleblower says whether it's intentional or whether it's just by error, that could be up for debate. And it's like I immediately want to jump right down into a rabbit hole and go, oh, yeah, we know what they're doing, and don't know for sure exactly. Monkeyworks on YouTube today showed a lot of planes that he breaks down all the flight paths. He saw a lot of planes that were going down to. He tracks them like right where they're coming from. This one's coming from Fort Briggs, or all the different names. I can't remember exactly all of it. I mean, this guy was Lockheed Martin type. I almost look at him as a whistleblower, although he's just really just shows you what's going on. The past, these huge, big buses, airplanes going back down, taking migrants back down, and a lot of planes. So who are they? Who, and why is no one talking about that? I mean, that's kind of what Obama did? Is that like what they do? Is like, we're not going to talk about it, but there's millions of people coming, and then we're going to send. Are they selecting? Is there a screening? If there was screening, it would be like, props, man. You guys are at least going through and screening. I don't think there probably is any screening, but there needs to be, in my opinion. That would really change the dynamics. But, how do you lose 100,000? 85,000 was her testimony. How do you lose 100,000 children? I mean, it's like, what the fuck, right? I mean, so that one was on my mind. And, a couple of things that I saw pop up in multiple places and I can tell nobody wants to say the word Q or QAnon, like Q's back. Nobody wants to say that. And I haven't been jumping in on any of the message boards like I did like 5 years ago, because I wanted to see what was going on. And I was really critical and skeptical, but it was quite a buzz. I mean, at one point there was like 10 or 15 that I was they were active channels that were doing these like deciphering, decoding of these encrypted posts from Q. And I was like, oh my God, this is really bizarre. I mean, it was just like almost like mixing biblical verses into just trust the plan. Just sit down there, just stay settled. You don't need to do anything. No, trust the plan. The white hats are in the tunnels and they're doing gun battles and they're killing the black hats in the government. Don't worry about a thing. Trust the plan. We got this going. Trump's got this. We got this as a team. You don't need to do anything. Don't get out and campaign. Don't go talk to your neighbors. Don't do all that. No, you don't need to do that. Well, they weren't saying that, but that's what they were saying. In my opinion, it really was. The QAnon, it was designed to neuter opposition. I know that the MSN has spun it and said, oh, the QAnon is what did January 6th. No, we know now that the federal intel agencies are who did January 6th. Regardless of the million MAGA marchers that came peacefully and were intended of going there peacefully. They had no intentions of doing the crazy shit that Ray Epps kept telling everybody to go do. Go to the Capitol. Our enemies are inside, Ray Epps, over and over and over again. How about that 60 Minutes piece, huh? Wow. Right? Did you see it? Did you sit through it? I couldn't sit through the whole thing, but I saw a good chunk of it, and then there was video promos. They were doing these little segments for a week before the episode Sunday. My God, and he's like, I'm not with the FBI. This is just QAnon scandal. He didn't say. I don't think he said QAnon, but this is just crap conspiracy. And it's like, no, bro, you keep saying you're not with FBI. Most of us, well, we don't know exactly what intel agency he's with, but I never said it was FBI because I think he was much further in. He's got to be DOD, DARPA. I mean, DARPA's had their fingers in the biolab release. I mean, really, you look at that, it looks like it's military intelligence. We actually have documents on that now, but it just because he says I'm not with FBI, and the FBI releases a statement, oh, he's never been a source and he's never been employed, and whoop, that settles it. Boy, you guys really fucked up on Ray Epps. I mean, like shame on Tucker Carlson because he was wrong. It was never FBI, and it's like, are you kidding? There's like 15, 20 different alphabet agencies he could have been connected with. And there's probably another dozen, I'm guessing, that we've never even heard of, and they're alphabet agencies that are operating in weird little silos in the government. That's real shit going on, but I can tell something's going on with QAnon because it's just percolating. Some of the same bullshit is percolating. This Comet Pizza, you remember the Comet Pizza story? They hyped it up into like there was a pizza shop in DC that had youth. They were abusing youth, like sexually abusing children and youth. And it was there was a basement dungeon. There was a lot of talk of these dungeons. I kept reading things, dungeon this, dungeon that. The Podesta brothers. There's John, and then the other creepier brother. Well, they're both creepy fucks, aren't they? But the one brother that had the art collection, he's got these paintings of like abused and battered children, like naked in showers, hanging on his wall. What the fuck? Who hangs that kind of shit in? Who wants that art? I mean, that's just like dark shit. You're going to have children naked or half naked and it looks like they've been whipped or beat or chapped or not right. I mean, they look distraught, like they need rescuing. But that's the artwork. The Podestas, and I'm trying to blink on that guy's name now. I tuned out those guys, but right, all this shit's percolating back. It tells me they've whipped up the Q board somewhere, right? Have they? If you know about it, let me know. If you know that for sure that's happening, because it has to be. There was a couple of posts from a couple of friends on my Facebook, which is much smaller than my original because it got axed. And I'm reading lots of posts of everyone, well, not everyone, but lots of people saying that their original profile was, and they can't get back into it. That's exactly what's happened to me. I mean, and it was several years I had that account. But this backup one that's me now, there's a couple of friends on there that have been asking questions specifically about the Comet Pizza. I must have read like, well, I was going to say a dozen. It wasn't that many, but it was probably about 5 or 6, which is just unheard of. And then people actually posting about it, like rehashing out new intel, new releases, new screenshots that it was all about child porn. It wasn't actually children in the dungeons in the basement of Comet Pizza. I mean, people have forgotten. I looked that up and I had to post it. That was on my phone, so I don't have it right here on my browser on the laptop. But there was a dude that actually believed that. People believe this shit. There was a young guy that believed it, brought a rifle of some kind to go rescue the children that were trapped in the basement of Comet Pizza. They arrested him. And he shot something up. He shot up like a server that had like data on it. And that was another thing that refreshed my memory today on these new posts about fucking Comet Pizza. Jesus, guys, please, people. We can't just repeat this shit, man. We can't just go right back into the repeat of 2016, 2017 nonsense and gibber of controlled opposition, probably Lincoln Project. Who knows? I mean, it could be anybody. It could even be somebody with the campaign that thinks it's smart to unify and get the messaging out and get people worked up with this secret shadow underground QAnon again. It's like, if that's happening, fucking shame on you people. It's not good for any campaign. My God. And it's not good for the psyche of Americans. But I went out on a branch there, but it was, we were talking about it being, and then I even heard one post, which is just, this is how I knew it was just so fucked up, was talking about Tucker and how Tucker liked the pizza, and they had there's like flight logs. Now you got flight logs, you got pizza logs of Comet Pizza with Tucker visiting. Oh my fucking God. First of all, they discovered there wasn't any pizza. The pizza, well, that would be a real red flag for a pizza shop. They discovered there wasn't a basement. It was all about basement dungeons. The Podestas had a dungeon. The pizza shop had a dungeon. They were torturing children, on and on and on everywhere. And I'm sure there's sick shit like that happening somewhere, or back then, and unfortunately, probably now. But that's sick. But I hope not. But we got missing children. We got 85,000 missing children. Where are they? They're probably a few hundred of those somewhere in some slaughterhouse I was hearing, and who knows what the fuck's true right now. We're going right back into massive disinformation campaigns, and it's really disheartening. It was a little depressing, really. I mean, just going through and going, my God, people are just so gullible. And to see conservatives and patriots buying into this shit again, it's so disheartening. I just, no, Tucker was not involved in any of that shit. Just snap the fuck out of it, please, people. Please. You don't need to ask about whether Tucker, is this true? It's like, oh fuck. No. But some of this new information, they were trying to say that it was like child porn instead of it being a child ring, and it was like hot dogs are code for something, and a part of that was WikiLeaks emails that came out of a couple different people's. It was one case that Anthony Weiner, that greasy dirtbag that was busted sending his dick pics to teens, and I mean, these are Hillary Clinton's close friends, associates, either lover or I think husband of her like number one go-to Muslim Brotherhood related. Jesus, I can't remember her name, Hoda or something. I don't know. I don't even want to dig it up. It's just so dark. But how disheartening that we're fading back into that crap. I mean, honestly, it's like, my God, Comet Pizza again, and now you're trying to say you got new intel and new releases, and then people are trying to pick it up and smear, saying, "Oh, Trump knew," and or these people knew, and it was like, what? What the fuck are you babbling about? Anyway, I got some notes here. That's what I'm looking at. So the QAnon, don't trust the plan. If it is back posting on message boards, I really hope it's not. But it feels like it is because somebody's talking about it. And that probably means they're probably trying to resurrect that dead vampire rear its head out of the coffin, suck the blood out of people that should know better. So, my God. So a couple of other things. It's already 30 minutes in. I just wanted to do a quick little drop in. I didn't want to do hours and hours diatribe, but the other one thing that's really it's got me concerned, and I understand it. I kind of understand it, but I don't like it. It's come out that Trump either posted on Truth Social. I don't really follow that stuff, but I do. I should check in now that the campaign season is heated up. But Trump said that the debates he didn't want to debate. It was a waste of money. We don't need to fight amongst ourselves. So somebody is trying to de-escalate it and saying, "Hey, we need to unify." You've got MAGA patriots attacking Ron DeSantis, and we got to unify. So tamper this down. I can just hear and see like some campaign strategy meetings happening with that kind of a tone because I can see what's going, and I'm reading these words. So why the fuck wouldn't people around Trump not want him to debate? He's an excellent debater. Any of that attention is it's good. So you just figure he's already been there. We already know the story. We don't need to hash it out. We don't need to give attention to the people that are in the 2% and the 4%. Pence, I saw one poll had Pence at 5% or 6%. It's like, God, how embarrassing. Why would you even fucking do that? I don't know, man. But then there's all these other people that are like coming into the scene now out of some governor and fuck. It's, but more voices, the better. And I actually think that debate is hello, it's great. It's excellent. It's needed. It's any type of healthy election. You don't just want to piss it away. That's what it looks like is what's happening. That happened right off the back of the DNC saying, the Biden campaign saying, there isn't going to be any debates for the Democrats. Holy fuck, people. My God, are you paying attention to this? So the Democrats, they don't want to give any traction to Bobby Kennedy Jr., right? They don't want to talk about failed vaccines. They don't want to talk about anything like that he wants to talk about. In a challenge to the Biden. So Biden is going to go back down to the basement. He's going to do what he does best in a campaign, like he did in this historical 81 million votes, in a diaper, eating pudding in the basement of his Delaware mansion. Right? So he's put a lid on it, and this is how they campaigned last time. There was like 15 people at a drive-through type of. Did you remember? You guys even remember that? He had cars pulled up, and there's like 15 or 20 of them, and he's on a stage, probably. Well, I don't know, probably, but he's in an astronaut suit to protect himself from boogeyman coronavirus, and that was the highlight. He had 15 people in 15 cars. That was the rally. Holy fuck. So, my God. But, that's just disheartening. If that isn't a canary in the coal mine indicator of our collapse of federal elections and of our country and our republic, where both sides now are saying, well, no need to debate. Yeah, there's no need of doing what we've always done, and that's discuss the issues in public and let voters decide. It's like, holy fuck. I remember people saying, well, we may not even have elections. This was like a couple years ago. And I thought, really? Are we headed towards that? Well, you know what? When they quit having debates, what follows next? You quit having elections, and it's like full-blown banana republic. No need for elections. It's like we got the military and the junta here, and let's just save money. We don't need to print ballots. Holy crap, that's expensive. And then you got to get printers that work. Are you kidding? You know how hard it is to find a ballot printer that works? Boy, I mean, look at Arizona. I mean, Katie. Wow, sneaky little Katie. My God, I was like 40% of all the voting machines were down, and then they were printing wrong size. They had, what was it, 19 or 20 inch, trying to jam into a 18 inch. I mean, it was just like, what? It's like, oh no, we won fair and square. Ha ha ha. You MAGA conspiracy. You guys are a bunch of crazed lunatics thinking we stole something. It's like, how insulting to our intelligence. I mean, you didn't even have the right fucking paper size. Of course, they're not going to work like the rest of the ballots. And what are the odds that happens in a predominantly MAGA, red, Republican county? We're not stupid, or are we? I'm beginning to think we are really fucking stupid. But we're not that stupid. Are we under hypnosis? I mean, what kind of stupid are we under? Like, I'm talking mass collective, Really depressing. It's really important to keep your spirits up, man, because I can really feel it. I can really just everything. I mean, all of this Tucker. Tucker Carlson. What a strange story. I don't really know. I had a couple different, you hear so much intel coming in. It's like, you don't want to piece it together. It's not patchwork. It's probably, well, maybe it is. It's probably a little bit of a lot of several different things. The latest one was, I've heard it several times, and Glenn Beck said it, and he said that it's the Godfather, Murdoch, right? The billionaire Godfather that runs this shit, runs Fox and Post and all this stuff. He doesn't like God. He doesn't like God. What do you mean? He doesn't like the word God. He doesn't want you. He didn't want Glenn Beck. He scolded Glenn and said, we're going to count every time you say God. Like, wait, what? The word God is the trigger? That's what's going to send me to the principal's office? That's what gets me written up as I talk about prayer, or I talk about God, the magic of the spirit? Apparently that's Fox. So, I could sort of see on a business level, even as creepy, as fucked up as it is, I could see like trying to stay neutral and like this unbiased religion. And but God could be anybody, right? It technically, really, it's traditionally kind of patriarch, but it doesn't have to be. You could have a goddess, Gaia. Is it Gaia? You could have an earth goddess. It's not what I doubt if Glenn Beck is praying to the earth goddess, but you know what I'm saying. What I'm trying to say. But then they pointed to that there was a speech Friday where Tucker talked about God, talked about the truth, and how he felt like it was being connected to the spirit. He might have said, I don't know for sure if he pieced the truth or speaking the truth, but he was saying how it was empowering to speak the truth. And then one of the early ones that came out, one of the rumors about with the Tucker thing is that he was trying to get himself liberated. So, after seeing his positive Twitter address tonight, he finally broke his silence. He's smiling. He says, it's the first time I've had dinner with my wife on a weeknight in 7 years. Wow. Right? People say, "Oh, that's the way it is for us." We both work, 50 hours. That's America. That's what I do. It's like, is that a relationship? I'm not trying to judge. I'm just saying, it's like, is that a marriage? I know that it is. I'm not trying to be, but it's kind of like, my God, you're not even, and you got children. You don't even have dinner with the children. But who does anybody have sit down meals? It's not Leave It to Beaver anymore for 80 years or something, 50 years. But God, isn't that really kind of a part of our breakdown of the family unit and having dinners and small talk, chit chat, checking in, hugs, kisses, spend some hang time? I guess you got the weekends, right? It just seems odd to me. I mean, it's like people that we love, family, children, we should be spending time with them every day. I do every day in the studies, talking about philosophy, talking about the spirit, God, crime, neighborhood, everything every day, sometimes all day, a lot of times all day. You know, my daughter was raised in the art studio. I mean, I got pictures of her at 2 years old with paintbrushes painting on canvas. I was like, I mean, she really did start very young, 2 years old, 1 and 2 years old. But uh, I don't know. It just seems so odd to me. It's like, of course, 50% of marriages in America fail because you're not having any dinner together for 7 years, except for the weekends. But then the weekends, it's all business. It's business, business, business. You got to fly, 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 zoom, 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 zoom. Right? It's business. I don't know, man. I mean, it's like we got to not only hug our loved ones, we got to spend time, quality time with the people that matter in our lives, or they're not there in our lives anymore. They're gone. And it might be just grown up. It might be other tragedies. I mean, tragedies happen every day, all day long. I've had such a different perspective in my life. It's carpe diem my whole life. You seize the day because tomorrow may not come. My whole life I've thought like that. I'm 50, gonna be 51. It's carpe diem, baby. I mean, I've lived my life the fullest that way. I haven't let anything keep me from the people that I love. If you've got a lover, especially if you've got a lover, you've got to spend quality time with the lovers. You can't do it any other way. If you have children, you have got to be there for them. No wonder the youth today are shooting and killing each other every weekend. It's not just the weekends; it's every day. Why? I mean, if you were spending time, if a father was spending time with the youth, you think they'd have time to go out and shoot and kill the rival punks, whatever it is, the clubhouse or whatever, whoever the rivals are. I mean, it's insane. Strangers. I mean, if you had fathers spending time with their children, are they going to go to a McDonald's and shoot people in the drive-through? Maybe. Probably not. I don't know. I mean, think about it. But fuck, man, this country is really, especially with the youth, that's so disheartening for me. The youth. I mean, it's Generation Z. It's a train wreck. It's like a collective narcissistic personality disorder. The whole generation. Nobody else matters. In fact, boomers need to die in their perspective, and Gen X might as well die. We're pretty much just boomer lights, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Gen Zer and millennial, man, we knew it. I knew it. I mean, when that generation was coming out, what was it, 30 years ago? I mean, they said this is going to be the most self-absorbed, selfish generation we've ever seen. I'm like, oh, great, right? These little punks, got these little punk kids coming. Sure enough, now the millennials are grown up, and boy, look at them. It is me, me, me. My problems, my disorders, my politics, and you're if against it, you're going to savagely be attacked, like I was today by somebody that's clearly not doing well, but their entire generation is not doing well. I mean, look at the months of rioting trying to kill federal officers and trying to burn police alive in their buildings in Portland in 2020. That's fucked up. I mean, yes, that's beyond narcissistic personality disorder, but it starts there. It blossoms like a very dark garden and the bloom into sociopathic and homicidal, but it's that antisocial personality disorder, that narcissistic personality disorder. Nobody else matters. Nothing else matters. It's me, me, me. My sexual orientation, my $500,000 in surgeries that needs to be done. And now you're seeing the politics exploit this mental illness of an entire collective generation by the adults in the room who are in just as bad a shape as the children that they're manipulating and exploiting. Am I wrong? No, sir. I am correct. Unfortunately, I hate being correct. I'm rarely wrong, but it's kind of depressing sometimes. So, I mean, we're just seeing this identity politics with these transsexual bills. They're trying to. We got one in Oregon. There was in Montana. There was a legislator in Montana, transgender, and she spoke up and was critical of the religion, saying, as you put your hands together and pray, you've got blood all over them. Pretty much. I mean, well, that is exactly what she said, but I wanted to extrapolate like that has undertones of a lot of other crazy shit, but that wasn't exactly what was said. But that was enough. In Montana, listen, I used to spend my summers backpacking along the Idaho and Montana border. That's beyond a Bible Belt. It is really, it's a nation of God. And people will say, well, that's a good thing. Well, there's I'm not a big theocracy, but I do think the spirit is a good thing. I do think God is a good thing. But I don't like censoring anybody's voices, even the people I really don't like. I'm not saying I really don't like her, but that I really disagree with people, like the Tennessee situation. And they came out, which that shouldn't have happened. But you know what? Let it happen. Let people self implode in front of the cameras, in front of the nation, and then expose them for the mental illness that they have. The This is Nashville, Tennessee. This is Tennessee. They were trying to, gun grabbers, young youth staging this occupation of the legislative floor. You guys all remember this. Well, if you have you turned the news off, I think a lot of you may have turned the news off, or you're not getting all the news. You're getting little bits of CNN that's framing it in different ways. But I digress. What I want to say is that it really is bait. It's like the rats have brought the mouse traps, right? And they bait the piece of cheese on there. And unfortunately, the conservatives or Republicans, lack of, well, it is. We're talking about Democrats and Republicans in Tennessee, in most part, this duopoly, but there is others, but we know what we're talking about here. We know what we're dealing with. And the Republicans take the bait and then snap, they censor, and then all of a sudden it's racist. And then all of a sudden you have the one white lady saying, I don't have any idea why I didn't get censored and removed, other than maybe it's because I'm white and you guys are people of color. She said that. She said that in front of the cameras. It's like, way to go, lady. You're really de-escalating racial tensions in Tennessee and the country. Atta girl. Wow. But that was a chunk of cheese on a trap, in my opinion. I saw it play out. I saw before. I could see a couple of steps before. Snap, the trap went down. You don't need to censor. Well, it's not really my business to say that because I'm not a legislator and each state has a right to conduct their business. That's the other part. I keep seeing these billionaires like Gavin Newsom in California. He keeps firing off missiles into Iowa, into Tennessee, and criticizing Florida, some starving children in Florida. Holy crap, Gavin Newsom, your state is a train wreck, sir. You're up there sipping $400 Cabernet at your whatever your money laundering restaurant is there, whatever it's the laundry. How appropriate. He's drinking $400, at the money laundering restaurant. Um, there's more people in your state than any other state in the country, and you're going to point over there and say, "Look, look, look! They're starving kids, dude. You're not only starving children, you're locking them up." Well, that's this that. Sometimes a little lockup might be good for some young people. Unfortunately, fentanyl, your youth are collapsing, dying. It's a oh my fucking god. But I digress on that. The whole point was is I don't like censorship. We're in a slippery slope of a banana republic, and hopefully you know that. People I talk with and watch, they all fucking know it, and they're talking about it, and it's depressing. It's concerning. We're tripping. We're freaking out. I mean, I'm tripping because I'm really concerned. We don't need to censor people. We need to figure out how to develop better communication. And when we just censor, and that's what happened with this Montana apparently. But it's just a chunk of cheese. I mean, she's just playing victim. She's playing victim and calling you transphobes in Montana, and of course, yes. I mean, it's like, who voted for her? How did she even get in there in Montana? I mean, in Missoula. I mean, there's a college there. That that's how. But it's just even it's like Montana. But so now they've gagged her. It's like a gag order. I don't like that. It feels the same way to me as the Trump team saying we don't need to debate, we don't need to communicate, we don't need to get this stuff out in the public and hash these things out. We don't need to do that. No, we're just going to shut it down. Don't do that. Don't do that, because that's a banana republic. Well, it's a lack of a better words. I mean that's where the military comes in. There's no election. We're pretty much, I hate to say it, but it's like, it is what it is. I mean, the U.S. Intel, the Department of Justice, DOJ, the IRS, armed, dragging people out. I mean, it's like, we are that. We are in a banana republic. It's not like it's coming. God, that cran raspberry. I used to drink that. That's like meeting up with an old friend. It's like, hello, my old cran raspberry friend. I'm gonna start buying that again. Cranberry's so good for you too. So censorship, it's an intentional triggering of transgender and transsexuals, and they juice them up on steroids, juice them up on hormones that their body is not used to dealing with. I mean, it's so ironic that you say you've got this male toxicity is the problem with America and the problem with everything. It's like white supremacy, male toxicity, and capitalism. Those are the triage of the demise of everything that's wrong with everything of this country, right? I mean, that's what you say. I keep hearing it for years and years and years. I hear you. It's all wrong framing. I'm not going to gaslight you and say your feelings aren't your feelings, but that's the wrong framing in my book. But you've got a right and a voice to speak that. As long as you're not shooting up the McDonald's drive-through and you're not, fucking. But even being physical on some level, you have that right to do that, although I think it's a big mistake. But I certainly wouldn't smack down and say you don't have a voice. That's the trap. Tennessee did it, and Montana's now walked into it. And that turns it falls into now you're an oppressor again instead of them being batshit crazy. Let batshit crazy people be batshit crazy. I learned that real good, especially in the courtroom. When especially in the courtroom, if people want to speak and say crazy shit, oh boy, I don't want to censor you. I really want you to speak up. And I want you to voice those crazy batshit things that you're percolating inside. Tell the judge. Tell the judge. Tell the judge everything that's gone wrong. I'll sit right here, real quiet, and I'm going to listen to you for hours and hours as you tell that judge everything that's wrong with you. That's actually a personal testimony. That's a huge part of how a father actually gains custody in custody battles. Is you let batshit crazy speak batshit crazy language, and it is what it is. Let people destroy themselves verbally. I mean, I'm not saying like, as into psychology and counselor and into that whole. Don't do that. I mean, by practice, you want people to survive and get better, right? I mean, that's. Although, even though I'm not in the business practice, pretty much my whole life is you just need to be a good listener and help people. That's what I've done my whole life. I mean, we all do that. That's good friends. When you got good friends, then, or when you are the good friend, that is what you do. And that's why, people like that. Nobody wants to be psychoanalyzed, but fuck, man, you're going to be psychoanalyzed. I'm just not going to tell you you're being psychoanalyzed, but I'm going to tell you the things that you need to hear, or that you want to hear, or that you need to hear that you may not want to hear, but it's good for you. Right? I mean, I don't need to be $100,000 in debt and have 2 degrees and a bachelor's and a master's degree to know that that's a good friend and that's how you help people. Right? I mean, fuck. But so let people be batshit crazy. Let people speak batshit crazy. I mean, I think it's really important, and it's really. I don't want to sound like it's like a master manipulative move, but it is really that reverse side Jedi mind trick as well, like psychology. That reverse side Jedi mind trick. It's also good debate. It's like a good debater like Trump is. Trump is an amazing debater because he keeps his fucking yapper shut. You keep your yapper shut and you let people walk into their own snare traps. And so I don't know why I keep going back through that, but so the Trump debate, I expressed that. I saw Don Jr. And Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. She was like, yes, heck yeah, we don't need debates. Good move. She retweeted Don Jr. And I just thought, oh no, man, fuck. I mean, I sort of understand you don't want to split the base. You got to unify them and then you got to suck in some indies and you got to suck in some Democrats. Really, ideally, I mean, that's how Trump got there. There was 10 or 15 million burners that were like, fuck you, Hillary Clinton, go to hell. We're going to vote for Trump. And that's really the clutch of how Trump got in 2016. I know I've said that before, but if you don't know that, you just heard it. You need to hear it again because that's what happened. And a lot of burners were they were independents anyways. I mean, they really weren't like dyed in blue, vote blue, no matter who. Not really. I mean, those people were trying to make history with electing the first woman warmonger into the White House. In my opinion, but the facts are the facts, and I've been saying that for several years. People are like, "Oh, that was my psychoanalysis or the political analysis of it was without these burners, Trump never would have." People don't realize that. They just thought it was all some right wing extremists, and that's how Trump got in there. It's like, no, you're really not fucking paying attention. I mean, start with trying to read the tea leaves because you got to start somewhere. It's like you ain't paying attention. So I digress. The point is that that's ideally is in independents are 40% of. I mean, you can't really call them a voting bloc if they're not affiliated, but it really is. It's like a non-voting bloc voting bloc. And they're different than the swing voters, in my opinion. But you could lump it in and kind of I hate that term swing voter because it just implies that they just swing in between establishment back and forth. And technically, that is what it is. Am I wrong? I don't think so. I could be, but I don't think so. So, I can kind of see where, but that's where Donnie shines the best. That's where Donnie shines the best is that in the debate and knowing that timing of when to shut your mouth and then when to speak and then when to smack them down hard with a club. And the timing's been a little bit off, in my opinion, with the campaign. I don't know really who's around the tight knit group. I'm beginning to think that Don Jr. is actually calling the shots. And I don't know if Jared's there. This doesn't seem like Jared's stuff. I don't know. And Ivanka, she was like, "Hey, I've had enough. I mean, I got destroyed and all my clothing line and everything, and I death threats, and thanks, Dad, but I was really happy, a millionaire, and with my life and having cocktails with Chelsea Clinton, BFFs, right? So, but hey, I don't have a big beef with Ivanka. She's just so cool. I mean, she's like my style. I just love, except for the pretentious, self-absorbed narcissism and all that. But did I say that? I mean, she's not really like that. I hope not. But it is what it is. So anyway, Tucker, migrants, QAnon, Comet Pizza, the trans bills. There's these are really concerning. It's not that anybody in the trans community is ever going to listen to me or give a fuck to assist aging overweight white guy, but who likes Trump. They don't give a fuck about me. But it's destroying your campaign. It whatever your goals. Well, I do know what your goals are, and that's the problem. But I think there's a manipulation of some of those goals for political gain, like the teachers union manipulating and exaggerating the pandemic and harming children in order to create the fear and hysteria to do a coup and flip the election. That happened. And I kind of feel that playing out with the transgender is that it's obviously we're dealing with mentally ill. Gender dysphoria, I'm not trying to be mean, although I can be mean. I can be a savage. That's not what I like to do, but I mean, you want to fuck with me? I mean, with words, oh, I will shred you. I don't get off on it. I'm not sadomasochist, but I'm just saying it's a mental illness, gender dysphoria. It's in the DSM. It is personality disorder, just like antisocial personality disorder. It's a mental health issue. These are mental illness. So you have the adults in the room who are often predators in the public school systems are pushing this on the youth. to make it cool, to make it seem hip and happening. And this is how we beat male toxicity. That was the other thing I want to mention is what that irony I got sidetracked was the male toxicity. So the testosterone, which you get amped up on the testosterone, and that roid rage. Remember that whole term roid rage? Well, now they're trying to make roid rage cool. They're making roid rage cool again, right? Because that's what they're doing. They're pumping up the youth. Girls want to be the boys, and so you juice them up with the roids. That's exactly I mean, it's very unhealthy. That's exactly what's destroyed wrestlers and athletes. That's what they were banning it. They were banning it because it created an unfair advantage. This is what you want to pump into the youth: is these toxic chemicals, the roid rage. There was with predators. There's a thing called chemical castration. The chemicals that you use to repeat that you cannot do, they're beyond therapy. The repeat offenders. This was really controversial back in the day. And again, they're popularizing this drug. There's drugs that it creates chemical castration. It basically shrinks the nuts, kills the testosterone. And in theory, this is somehow it's going to prevent them get those feelings of wanting to continue to abuse dozens and dozens of children, raping them violently. Sick shit. A lot of these guys die in prison, and that's a nice happy ending for them in my book. But it's the same thing. It's the same chemicals. Oh, here comes the police. We've got another shooting. That actually might be an ambulance. It's hard to tell, but it's been a lot of that lately in the neighborhood. Again, unfortunately, but so the roid rage and so this male toxicity, the element of male toxicity, you're now going to pump into your sisters and make your sisters into roid rage, male toxicity, gender dysphoria, clusterfucks of mental illness. And the teachers are going to go, yay! So proud of you. Yay! You guys are doing so good. Yay! You don't know who you are? Who wants to be a fire truck? Oh, okay. 5 of you want to be a fire truck. Okay. How many boys want to be girls? Okay. Let's go over here. We got pills and drugs and psychotherapy and indoctrination, and we got pretty dresses and big rainbow hair wigs. Yeah. Yay. You're celebrating mental illness. You're indoctrinating into children who want to be a fire truck. Kindergarten, first grade, second grade, who wants to be a fire truck? Most of the classroom raise their hand and say, I want to be a fire truck. Not a firefighter. They want to be fire trucks. You follow me? And so they don't know who they are. And it's child abuse. And I am all about civil liberties. As an adult, you've got, with mutual consent, you got a right to sexual relations with any other adults that you want in any way that you really, I mean, there's a lot of unhealthy shit there, but that's not my business. Although eventually I'm going to be that friend that you're going to need to consult to, and I'm going to be like, well, there was warning signs, and I did mention you're falling for the same abusive guys that you've been doing for years. You just repeat it over and over and over again. I've got people in the family used to be really close to me, and I just watch them decade after decade, year after year, repeat the same fucking patterns. It's their right. Civil liberties. When it comes to the children, you don't got that right. In fact, you've got the right to have your fingers broken when you're doing that to our children. It's child abuse. And you're lucky if you just come out with broken fingers. Now, I'm not encouraging people to go break fingers. I don't want anybody to do that, but I'm just saying that you don't have that right. And that's what these bills are trying to do. They're trying to gag the parents, the parental rights. They're trying to gag them and then create laws that they can skirt around Christian parents or Muslim or Gaia worshiping libertarians who have an open focus on allowing their child to grow into naturally what they want to believe in. I've never indoctrinated um, my child. It's really important to me not to indoctrinate because I had to deprogram for my child. I mean, so it's like when you experience those things, it's like, fuck, that's the way not to be a dad. That's the way not to do it. Right? That's and you got to deprogram it. And it's possible, but a lot of people don't survive it. A lot of people don't survive deprogramming from a major, like, fundamental type of programming. But it can be done. It really can be. And there's actually really quick ways to do it that are healthy and organic and natural and done in a safe setting, which I keep mentioning it, but it's the wonderful of the magic cubenzas. I mean, it's a wonderful way to step out of your mind and go, oh my God, that's the way I was. Oh my God, that's the way I was thinking. And it's like, and you're outside of that and you're like, no, that's not the way it is. Oh boy, I see the way I was told, and I now see the way I feel is the truth in a different way. That actually can happen pretty quickly. But other people spend their whole lives trapped, and other people, they don't live full lives because it snuffs them out. I mean, think about all the people that die at 27, rock stars and musicians and celebrities, but it's not just that. There's a lot of other people that are not rock stars, musicians, and celebrities, unknown unknowns, and they die at 27 too. So, and I also mentioned that Saturn return. Saturn takes 27 years to do one loop. I know I'm not going to get into the astrology on this one, but that is what it is. So anyway, it's not cool. And trying to skirt around parental rights is criminal. I mean, it's like if anybody does any harm to our children, we're going to take appropriate action, and we're going to take that action in our own hands. We're not going to wait for some dysfunctional police department to come investigate and do something. You're messing with our children, and it's like mama bears. Mama's going to do it just as much as the dad's going to do it. You don't fuck with our children. It's a dangerous situation. I mean, it's explosive for a lot of people, especially if parents aren't grounded and aren't doing well themselves. Which I was just reading a study that got dug up from the 90s. It was talking about over 50% of gender dysphoria children, over 50% of them, their mothers, often single moms. Where's daddy? Daddy issues. Dad's not there one way or another. They have narcissistic personality disorder. And I was just like, ding, 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 ding. That whole Carl Jung cosmic conscience, the cosmic unconscious of spiritual synchronicities. It's like, my God, it's been on my mind for months. I've actually tried to do short videos talking about narcissistic personality disorder. And there it was. They actually had a study from the 90s saying gender dysphoria children have these mothers. For the most part, it's moms because that's just the way it's been, especially in the 90s, right? And you don't find single dads raising their own children without cray cray mom around much in the 90s at all. In fact, I would, not many, maybe one in a million, a little bit more common now. But common with fathers raising children, I mean, that's really the problem. If we want to solve this issue, we have to create incentives, which Republicans don't want to hear, conservatives don't want to hear, people that hate welfare state don't want to hear. But we have to create incentives, financial incentives, that a father could stay home and educate and raise their children without having to go send them to $2,000 a month childcare or send them into the public school system that's going to fuck them all up and can't protect them. And it's really indoctrinating and hurting them now. It's not the 80s. It was different in the 80s and 90s. Much different. My God. But I'm just saying that it's like if there was, what's wrong with that? If you're going to spend state money for childcare, these thousands of dollars a month for single moms, so they can go work because you don't want the moms there around the children. Why? Because you want the schools, you want strangers to care for the mom's children because she's got to go work, and then you criticize her for being lazy and some welfare queen because she's at home doing what a parent should do. Be there. Just be there. Just be present. But no, the whole system is set up for thousands of dollars in child care and send out that mom. And then the father doesn't even get that option. But the father would have to do the same thing. Father's got to go bring in revenue, got to go find a job, which means the children are at home. How do you think children get fucked up? They're latchkey. They're left home alone, either being abused by other siblings or the neighbors or the babysitters. Oh my God, I could tell you stories. I'm talking about female babysitters. Shouldn't have been in our home. Period. Whether they were teens, teenagers and hormones and stuff, but it's like that's who you left us with? The abuser? My God. And so it's like unattended, left alone teens are in. I'm just throwing that out there because I don't have the data in front of me. And I'm not saying demographic. I'm not saying it's this does all shades, all children. But when they're not supervised or just being in the presence of a parent, it doesn't have to be two. I know two is ideal. But really, even the Republican, conservative, traditional nuclear family, it's not two in the house. It's one's out making the money, and you got one that's in the house playing Mr. Mom, or more likely, 99.9%, the mother, baking cookies and bread, which is nice, but fathers can actually bake cookies and bake bread too. So I'm just presenting something here that it's these traditional thinking patterns. If you could actually give fathers, young fathers, incentive to say, okay, here's a housing voucher. You're a single dad. Here's a housing voucher. What's the difference between paying for $2,000 a month, or it's not cheap. Childcare is not cheap. Anybody that's got children knows that childcare it's more than your mortgage. It's more than a parent's mortgage for childcare. That's why it's often one of the parents, if you're lucky to have two, have one of the parents. It's cheaper to have them not working and at home, playing that role rather than what it would cost if they both went out there. And with the liberated women, who often are outperforming in salary and can make the money, educated. I mean, it's like women are not dumb idiots without educations anymore. This is 2023, gang. They often have overeducated, deep in debt. That's another thing altogether. But have them go make the money if you're lucky to have two parents. Have the women and then have the dad. We got to get into that. And I've been seeing a lot more of that in Portland. At least I did before the corona pandemic. It's like when I was going to the playground and stuff, it's like you see the men with the strollers. I did. And I had a couple of buddies. They were dads with the strollers, and we'd meet up. I know it sounds insane, but maybe it's just a Portland thing. I don't think so. But I mean, Portland, if it's going to happen more like that, it's going to be in Portland. But it was dads with strollers. I mean, we used to joke. It's like, that's the band, dads with strollers. It can be done. It should be done because the children are greatly equaled out, balanced out, and they're not quite as wiggy, tweaky, antisocial personality disorder type of dysfunction junction. Although it can happen. And, a lot of times fathers are struggling, have their own issues, and but there's a lot of good dads. There's a lot of good guys out there that they would make great fathers. They just aren't given the chance. The courts aren't ruling in their favor, and then they're treated like pieces of shit because they're a single father and they're at home. And there's like you have to get some subsidies, either have a housing voucher or somehow you're going to have to get your rent down, and then you're going to need a couple $100 at least. I mean, diapers alone are $200 to $300 a month in cash as babies, and you can't get diapers from any of these agencies. That was something that just blew me away. It's been 10 years since I've had to deal with that. But I said to myself, I go, I'm going to change this. This has to be changed. I mean, it's like either a laundering service. I mean, why not subsidize like cloth diapers if you want to say, man, all the plastic, which is true, but it's not, cloth diapers are not cheap. It's an expensive service. But if you could subsidize it, you can make it more eco-friendly. But even then, if you just deal with it, it's going to be 18 months, 2 years at the most. They should be out of diapers within a year, but there's at least a year where it's 10 diapers a day. I mean, you don't want diaper rations. You've got to keep it dry and it has to be clean. It's got to be done right. Otherwise, you're going to fuck shit up. That's like parenting 101. That's the other thing is I think if you're going to you should have parenting classes. It should be mandatory. If you're going to require teenagers to have a certain amount of driving hours before they can drive a car, why the fuck aren't you having parenting classes for a certain amount of hours so they can raise their goddamn baby properly, safely, with a seatbelt? Or whatever the metaphor of driving safely and effective, not killing people or getting yourself killed in the car. Parenting classes should be mandatory. And it's one thing about Multnomah County. It's like when you're going through a separation, a divorce, well, more than a separation, when you're splitting in its custody battle, you're required to do mediation. It's required by law in Multnomah County. It's not a bad policy, although it's crazy fucking shit when you've got an abuser and you had to sit in that room and mediate with them. But it's required. And then you also have to do a certain amount of parental things, parental workshops, classes. I can't remember. It wasn't that many, but it's like they tell you, it's like, don't talk shit about the other parent in front of the child. It fucks up the kids. If you say the mother's batshit crazy, the daughter, the kids are going to start thinking that they're batshit crazy because I'm like mom, I look like mom, or vice versa. It's like you don't do it. And it also will backfire. Parents that talk shit about the other parent, children are smart. They know you're sabotaging them, and they know you're sabotaging dad, sabotaging mom, or whatever, and it'll backfire. For sure. People really underestimate the intellect of young people on that level, in my opinion. But anyway, I digress. So the whole trans thing is got me really bummed out because it's intentionally triggering. So we're taking this generation, this Gen Z generation, and that's they're saying that they're 20% transgender or more likely to be transgender. I think they're just going along because it seems like you guys are programming them. It's a really cool thing to switch your sex, and then we'll just get pumped up and hopped up, and then now you get a bunch of free cosmetic surgery. So you already don't like yourself, you got all these issues. Well, now we'll give you a new nose and eyebrows, and we'll take care of your neck and shave down your ad. Well, all of this, hundreds of thousands of dollars on the public payroll. All this cosmetic surgery. It's not just clipping their nuts and neutering. And then, so, the stories are not good. I mean, a lot of times surgeries don't work right. A lot of times the surgeries, it's like it smells. Like I've heard that firsthand testimony where they're like, it doesn't smell right. Really, really gross. It's really unfortunate. And that's why you're having all these people stepping up and saying, I'm transitioning back and I can't bring back what's missing but I'm trying to. I know I'm gonna, it's fucked me up. You're gonna hear a lot of that because young people who are vulnerable and impressionable, and they haven't given time to transition out of "I want to be a fire truck," I want to be a fire truck, to letting them discover if they're gay or not gay, or whether they're feminine or not feminine. Hormones kick in late for a lot of people, which means it's high school before they're even growing hair and puberty and things like this. Although data does say that they're actually going through this stuff younger and younger, but not all of them. And but anyway, that's a whole other thing. So anyway, so I guess that's kind of it. I was going to mention about Elon, but I always feel so guilty talking shit about Elon. And I don't really want to talk shit about him, but it was the one thing that was on my mind when I watched the interviews with Tucker. That was really interesting. It felt like to me there was like I didn't realize there was going to be like two second part and then third part or whatever it turned out to be. I had no idea. I thought it was just going to be like an hour interview with Tuck. It's like um, but the one thing, it really felt like it was like a confessional to me. It was Elon making a confession, like he was forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. And it was like he was trying to clear his conscience. It's like he was responsible for this AI stuff, and he's talking about his little Coke buddy down in Palto in California. He said they'd stay up all night. It's like, what are you doing? You wealthy tech guys. I mean, obviously you're fucking snorting Coke until early morning and drinking. But he was talking about all this stuff, and then his buddy wanted to like go in full robotic, and he called him a speciest, I think. Speciesist, which means you're like, the Homo sapiens, the human beings are priority, and that was an interesting dynamic. But really, that Elon did that, and he's like, yeah, well, it's starting to look like the most. What did he say? The most ironic. The most ironic is going to be the most likely, something like that. It was like when he was talking about the AI. It was like, and he's really talking about AI taking over, launching missiles, shutting off grids, killing people. This type of a thing on their own. That's what I was interpreting it as. I mean, may not have said those exact words, but it was just like it was so weird. It was just kind of like, dude, you're guilty of this stuff, and he's just trying to like have like a limited hangout, but he was like trying to wash the blood off of his hands. This is Elon. It was really weird. It wasn't sincere or genuine. It was. I mean, it was in a one way, but it really had these other layers of manipulation. It really it gave me a different perspective and insight on Elon, that he's not really being outright and honest. We're really in an Elon limited hangout. He's going to tell us little bits and pieces to make himself look cool, and to, like a confession, purify his soul and his heart and his mind, and say, oh yeah, I sold it to these guys that are going to create cyborgs and destroy all of us. Yeah, really, it looks like the most ironic is going to be the most probable. I don't know. I mean, I want to like the guy. I sort of like him. I mean, I guess. But it's just kind of like he says some things, he knocks it out of the park. But a limited hangout, it tells you certain little bits, it doesn't tell you the big picture of it all. And he might just trying to stay a little more positive than the reality of the situation, because it's pretty dark. Our future is real dark, and it ain't gonna be like another 30 years. And it's not gonna be from big black Ford trucks. All that Green New Deal jargon and bullshit. I should do a whole video breaking down. That is all just scam racket type of bullshit. They're trying to make a buck, and you've got volcanoes erupting. That was the one really cool thing. If you've got a chance, go to band.tv, watch the info wars of Robert, the militia guy from the 90s, Mitchell. Is it Bob Mitchell? Oh, I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. Fletcher? Robert Fletcher? But he was on InfoWars. Uh, AJ found him. Alex found him, and he's in Idaho. Ironically, I knew exactly when he said the city. I was like, "Oh fuck, I've been right through there." I mean, I got family still in Idaho. I'd spend my whole summers in Idaho, every summer for years when I was younger, backpacking and swimming in Lake Pend Oreille and Coeur d'Alene Lake. I mean, I know that. I know the whole state and Montana. You know, and Spokane. I had a Uncle Tom had a pig farm, and we used to talk about wheat farmers were controlling all of Washington. I was like, wheat farmers? It's like wheat farmers are controlling the country, and I was like, whoa. I'm going back, 30 years, no longer than that. I'm 51 now. I'm going back as a teenage, and younger than a teen, but teenage. You're looking at 35 years back, man. That's a time travel right there. But if you could see that today, oh man, it was good because he really hit the notes and he was saying things that I've been saying. I've never heard anybody say it like that. Arguments that I've been making online about the volcanoes. And he was like, yeah, we were counting 47 volcanoes all erupting. He goes, many of those are underwater. Well, that's what I keep saying. Al Gore is spewing at the mouth talking about boiling oceans, but he can't mention and doesn't realize he hasn't read the fucking science about volcanoes erupting underwater, that's boiling oceans from volcanoes. You're going to blame cars so you can sell electric vehicles and take top down global control of our economy, banking industry, our food supply. I mean, people wake up. If you don't understand that, fucking snap out of it. But he was talking about all of these things for at least an hour. And then he took some calls. AJ had callers, which was kind of interesting. I got to watch that again because I had a couple different things going on. And I was like multitasking. Anytime I multitask, I catch bits and pieces, whatever I do. But I like InfoWars a lot. And especially since AJ is just really transformed after they've tried to demolish him, and he's like the phoenix rising. It's like he's just blossomed into this. I don't want to say sainthood, but it's sort of saint-like, Saint Alex, because they've destroyed him. I mean, I was going to say they tried to destroy him, but they actually really have financially. They've taken everything, but he's just as strong, and he's now spending more time with his uh, wonderful, beautiful wife. He's got a 5-year-old daughter. He's my age too, so it's kind of like you have that kind of that Gen X connection. Um, but I don't know, it's not a huge connection, but Gen X is we're really the coolest generation. I mean, it is what it is. But anyway, so I think it was Fletcher. And another interesting parallel is that Mike Morales, and pray for Mike Morales, it's another guy I've been watching for several years and used to do him every day. He's fighting for his life. He's got the worst cancer that you can get spreading throughout his body. The last year he's been doing all these things, all this cannabinoids and anything and everything in the chat that's ever recommended. He goes, oh, I was doing that. I've done that. He goes, hey guys, you don't understand. I've done everything natural. And now, and for several months, he's been doing chemical type of treatments because it's spreading. He had a brain thing that went away. Now it's on his liver and spine. And so pray for our brother, Mike Morales, because he's pretty much said that it's spread and it's you've got a certain amount of time. But his Mike Morales's opening skit was, or at least has been for a long time, for years he's always played this guy, was this Fletcher guy testifying in front of Congress in the 90s. So 40 years ago, 30 years plus. And he's talking about geoengineering, and he's talking about these New World Order plans, just like AJ's been doing 25, 30 years. But this Fletcher guy, who they go, he's I think he said Montana, the militia guy, he's testifying, and he said a lot of stuff. He was talking about The CIA was trying to get him involved. He was involved in Iran Contra. He said a lot of things. I've never heard the guy actually do an interview. I've just seen his testimony in front of Congress. And I mean, he's been kind of a secretive, but now the guy's like nearly 90. He looks really good for in his, I think his mid 80s, 82, 85. I mean, that's close to 90, but he's in his 80s. And he's talking about all this stuff. And he was talking about these weapons. And he was talking about how 9/11 and the buildings were zapped with these particle lasers. And that's something that I've talked about. Was it mini nukes? Was it micro nukes? Because what happened there was it just turned it into ash. I mean, it was like molten lava at ground zero, World Trade Center 1, World Trade Center 2, and it glowed for like months. So that's the other thing. It's like it wasn't just airplanes with jet fuel and then this controlled demolition, which is insane by itself, but there was these other dynamics of this molten lava that's just molten, percolating and all that toxic shit that's killed and harmed all these firefighters. All these decades later, I mean, they had those guys down there in that shit. But so that particle laser, particle beam, he was talking about these weapons. He says he thinks other countries have got it too, and it'll blow your mind. I mean, if you're or if you like Infowars, you've got to see this episode today. It's out of this world. But if you're skeptical about what all this crazy shit is all about, listen to this. I think it's Robert Fletcher. It's all, and he says he's got terminal cancer and he has only a little bit of time left. So it's like almost a deathbed, although he's not on a deathbed, but he pretty much admitted and confessed that it's done, it's inoperable. So yeah, I don't know if it's a month, I don't know if it's 6 months, but this is the final time. So that's when these guys tell the most. That's when the CIA assets, these operatives and whatever the fuck they were doing, whoever was talking to them, that's when they do the deathbed testimony. And that's when you want to put your ear in, you want to get in and listen. He said a few things. He was really critical of Putin. He really thrashed Putin, and you could hear that Russia phobia. He even slipped and was referring to the Soviet Union, like Putin was in the Soviet Union, like Moscow was the Soviet Union. It was like, and he had to correct himself. So I mean, the guy's probably got tumors or something, maybe in his brain or something. Who knows? I mean, but you wouldn't tell that by the interview. He's still, for all that going on, he was in really, really good shape. So, but to have a truther like that, and it really got me thinking about a lot of things, and it confirmed everything that I was saying, that especially with the volcanoes and stuff. So it's with the core of the center of the Earth. These changes, they're not coming from global warming greenhouse top down in this ionosphere, stratosphere down. And it certainly isn't, and he repeats it, it's not from cars and all this other shit they're saying. It's from the core. And the core, with volcanoes erupting on Antarctica, people don't want to talk about that. It's like, oh my God, the ice is all melting from Antarctica. Well, why aren't you mentioning that there's an active volcano down there? Multiple volcanoes, but there's geothermal water coming out of that. Where there's volcanoes, there's warm water, and that's melting snow and ice as well. Why aren't you saying that? Because it doesn't fit into this psychological operation, the sabotaging of this climate change hysteria, which is total bunk. Total bunk. If things are changing, as he says, it's core. And then I've also been reading about, there's a theory that the direction of the magna core of the Earth has switched, like switched directions. So not like, they talk about the polar reverses, the polar flips. There's records of that in ice core samples. There's records of this stuff. I mean, there's scientists that have actually said the poles have flipped on Earth. Do you know that? Have you heard that? If you don't know that, oh my God, you got to check that out. But this is the core. So the core, and I don't know exactly how that works, and I'm not sure exactly how they fucking know that. there is some data, serious scientific data on it, that they believe that there may have been a reversal. So when that happens, you're going to have more volcanic activity. 30 volcanoes erupting right now. Nobody ever talks about that. All of those emissions, the sulfur oxide, the sulfuric acid. And these guys keep talking about CO2 and how it's damaging. Shut the fuck up. CO2 is what makes our trees grow fast. That's what makes our gardens. That's what makes us everything go and grow, man. Holy crap. Jesus. It's getting late. All right. I've been talking too long. So anyway, check that out. And we'll talk soon, All right. Peace out. Be safe. And I'll do another one here, if not two, before this Scorpio lunar eclipse on Cinco de Mayo, the running of the bulls. I mean, and they're talking about. I also heard Monkey Works talking about that the cartels. I mean, they're just blowing each other's hearts out. I saw a couple of other video links on Twitter, and I mean, everything's heated up. I mean, it's just full on civil war. And then you've got the Mesoamerican children with the Mayan dialect that don't speak Spanish. They've got swooped up and now being hijacked and kidnapped across the border by smugglers. They're not speaking Spanish. Nobody understands them. They're not talking, or whatever they're saying is not being understood. Oh my God. Our Mesoamerican friends, the Mayan children. It's unacceptable. And it ties right into things that we've been talking about. So it's been really just multiple issues that have all presented themselves to me in things that I've been talking about. And that really, it's kind of tingly. It's unsettling, but at the same time, it's like confirmation. And Alex Jones talks about that happening to him as well. So it's a part of this collective psychic conscience that I believe in that, and I believe that we can tap into that, and I believe that's happening right now, and that usually there's major transformation things happening, and it's obvious that that's happening to a lot of us, and there's a lot of people dying, and there's going to be billions of people that are going to be starving here probably this next winter. I mean, there was a lot of talk about the death and starvation from all these sanctions and stuff this last winter, which I wonder what all that count is, but it's going to be even more dramatic this winter. It's going to be really bad for Germany, really bad for the European Union. And as war just escalates and into more and more. And I've heard some discussion that Ukraine is flattened and it's dead, and it's devastating. And some of the intel people, whatever it is, DOD, CIA, whatever, however this clusterfuck of Mossad, and I don't even know all of it, the details, but they're actually saying there's infighting, saying it's over, it's done, let's talk peace, we got to shut this shit down. We'll see what happens. We'll see who wins. I mean, if micro nukes don't go off, God intervened, because that's what I think is going to happen. I think we're looking at an unfortunate nuclear exchange. And I'm not sure how many people are going to get taken out on that. But anyway, that's a whole nother subject. All right. Peace out. God bless.